Hi, I'm Don, and this is The Hobbyist Geek. Welcome back, y'all. Today we are continuing our Impression Hawaii build with part 2. Last time, maybe didn't get as far as I had hoped to, but it is coming along nicely. But how about we just get right back into it, take as much time as we can to get as far as we can. Alrighty, y'all, we're going to be kicking off today's video with step 5. And this is all you're going to need for step 5. Not a lot of parts here, but this is going to be quite a bit of work. For now, we can take these and put them to the side. These are 2 F15s and 1 F12, but those will come into play later. For now, we have G17, this beautiful turfy looking grass thing, and we've got our paper template, and we're going to want to be cutting out all of these. Don't toss your scraps, okay? But for now, let me go ahead and cut all these templates out, and I'll show you what comes next. Alrighty, here are all of our templates cut out. Remember to save your scraps. Now, these 4 large pieces we don't need for a good long while, so we can set those to the side. All of these, however, still need a little extra work. You should have 14 larger pieces and 6 smaller ones. And for each one, you're gonna wanna just kind of trim it a little bit, kind of like this. And what we're doing is turning these into leaves. Almost like, almost like an aloe plant style leaf, okay? So, something kind of like that, and you're gonna wanna do it for all of them. So, let me go ahead and make that happen. I'll be right back. Alrighty, now we have all of our leaves cut out. You should have 14 large and 6 small. And what we're going to do is we're going to split the large ones in half. So 2 groups of 7. And we're going to glue those large ones into these. These are F15s, 7 per pot. And then all of the small ones, all 6 of them, are going to go into F12 here. So let me go ahead and get one done. I'll show you what it's like, and then we'll go from there. All right, look at that. Now that's just my arrangement. You do you, of course. And we've got 2 more to go through. So let me get those in, and we'll show you the final product. And there we go. 2 big plants, 1 small one. And that, my friends, is the end of step 5. Beautiful. Let's see what's next. All right, here's what we need for step 6. This should be nice and easy. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take one of these D31s here. We're going to glue it to a D32. And it should go just like so, flush corner, okay? So let's make that happen. Okay, should look a bit like that when you're done. And then we're gonna do the same thing with another D32 on the other side. Look at that. And now we're gonna take the other D31, and that's basically gonna go in here on the top to close it off, and we'll make us a nice little box. So let me go ahead and make that happen. All right, should look a little something like that when you're done, and we can move on. All right, next up, we're going to take one of these F16 beads here and this F17 piece. We're going to glue them together just like that. So let me get that done. All right, just like that. And now we've got another one of these little E916 labels. And this puppy is just going to go right on there to make a bottle. So let me make that happen, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, and with all of these pieces in place, we're going to take the small plant from the previous step, as well as the bottle that we just made. We're going to put them on the top shelf here. So let me glue them in place, and I'll show you what the final product looks like. Alrighty, there we go. Now we have us a, end table of sorts with a plant and a bottle on it. And that completes step 6. Things are coming along. Alrighty, here are the parts that we need for step 7. Not much here. We have these 2 pieces of paper. These are both E9-17. They come as a set. And what we're going to want to do is glue them back to back, like that. So let me go ahead and get that done. Alrighty, so there we go. All glued together. While that's drying, we're going to come here. Now this is G1, which is the black wire here. Okay, we have a 5 centimeter long piece and a 1.2 centimeter long piece. We're going to take the 5 centimeter long piece. We're going to bend it right in the middle. We're going to make us a little bit of a V. Now, the center of that V is going to glue to the center, the back of our little poster here. And you want it to be about like that. So the 2 legs come out the bottom. Okay, so about like so. With that done, we're going to take our tweezers. We're going to curl up the ends. Kind of like that. Both sides. All right. Look at that. With that, we're going to glue it to the back of this. Make sure the legs are coming out the bottom. You don't want your poster here to be upside down. All right. We're going to give this a minute to dry before we head on to the next step. Alrighty. Had to get a little more glue on the stems, but there it is, glued in place. And that is where this comes in. This will be the 3rd leg of our little tripod here. It's going to go right up in here and should hopefully create a nice little display. Let's see what we can do, shall we? All right. Should look a little something like that when you're done. I think once this is dry, I may shorten our front legs here a little bit because they do seem just a tad long. comparatively speaking, but those are the sizes as specified in the instructions. So I guess a little correction to make it look just right will be fine. Let me see what I can do about that. Let the glue dry, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, this is what I've got for the final product. You can see the angle of the stick in the back and our little pizza sign stand. Gorgeous, and that actually completes step 7. Okay, so here is what we're gonna need for step 8. This is gonna be a fun one. We're gonna kick things off with 3 of these D17 pieces. These are the thicker ones. This right here is D18. It is slightly larger, okay? So you can see there's a bit of a lip here. So don't use that yet. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take all 3 of these D17s. We're just gonna glue them together just like that, as even as you can make it. So let me go ahead and get that done. I'll be right back. All right, there we go. With that glued in, now we're going to take this D18 piece. When you line it up, line up this interior edge so that there is a little bit of a lip coming out. So when it's all lined up, there should be a lip on the outer edge here, okay? So let's go ahead and get that in. All right, look at that beauty. Okay, we're gonna set this aside to dry for a bit. We're gonna start making some bottles. Now for this, I'm gonna start by putting the lids on a few of them. We have 3 of these little F1 pieces here, and those will go under this F10 piece. This F5 piece, these little beads, and this F13. Okay, so let's go ahead and put those little F1s onto each of these 3 bottles here, and then we'll go from there. All right, so there we go. We've got our 3 bottles. We're going to leave those dry for the moment. You notice we have 5 more of these labels. Now, one is going to go on this clear one. One is going to go on the yellow one. The black one does not get a label, okay? And then these 3 beads here will get a label. So we're going to start with these 3 beads, okay, and glue the labels on. Let these dry a little bit, and then we'll come back and do the other 2. And I will come back to show you what the final product is. Alrighty, so here we are. We've got our 2 gold cups, whatever that's supposed to be, all labeled. We've got our little clear bottle with the label, the yellow bottle with the label, and our black unlabeled. And we are ready to start some assembly. Okay, with our bar out here, we're going to take one of these F12s. We got 3 of these. We're going to take one of them. We're going to glue it down on the left edge of the bar here. Yeah, about there. Then right in here, we're going to put one of our gold cups. So let's get that puppy in. All right, right next to it, we have F4. Now this is slightly curved. Place it like it's a plate or a bowl, so the curve is coming up and the deep is down. Just like that. All right. Now on the other side of that, we've got another one of these F12s, so let's get that in. Right about there should work. And next to that will be the next gold cup. So let's get that puppy in too. About like that. Now, on the back side of the bar, we're going to put all 4 of these bottles. The back row will have yellow bottle, then this, I don't even know what color that is, rose colored one right there. Front row will have white, then black. So let's get those glued in too. All right, and with all those glued in, right about here, we got our final F12. So let's get that in. All right, should look a little something like that when you're done. One step left. Remember how way back when I told you to save those G17 scraps? Well, you're going to want to cut a whole bunch of them into little pieces, and we're going to glue them to our dish here. So let me get that done. We'll show you what the final product looks like. And there we go. Look at this. We've got a full bar ready to rock and roll. And that completes step 8. Alrighty, y'all. Here are the parts that we need for step 9. This should be fun. We're going to be building a whole bunch of different things this time around. We're going to kick things off with E9-18. And that actually has 2 of them. What we're going to do is we're going to glue these things back to back. So let's go ahead and make that happen. All right, there we go. Ready to rock and roll. We'll set that to the side for the moment. Now we're going to bring this out. Now this is a 5.5 centimeter long length of G1. We're going to kick things off with a little bit of a roundy bend here on the front. Okay, something like that should be just fine. Now we're going to do a little bit of a bend right about the 2 centimeter mark from the other side. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, I'm going to make about a 90-degree angle, give or take. Kind of like that. And then 1 centimeter down, we're going to bend it again right here, back up to make a bit of an angle here. So let's see. Perfect. Look at that. Now comes the difficult part. What we're going to do is we're going to glue the sign to the bottom of that curved area right about here. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do that, but I'm going to give it a shot. So wish me luck. All right, basically I put some glue on the post here, held this in place for about 2 minutes or so to let the glue mostly dry. Made sure any excess was coming off on one side, which is in this case this side. This is going to be the rear side. And now I'm just going to set it down, leave it here, let it dry the rest of the way, and we'll move on a little bit. Now we're going to need 2 of these D20s and 2 of these F6s. And we're just going to glue an F6 to a D20 right here in the middle, just like that. We're going to do it twice. This time around, we're making bar stools. All right, should be a bit like that when you're done, times 2. I'm going to set these to the side, let those dry for a little bit. Now we got some fun stuff. we have a 2 centimeter length of G1. We have F12, and we have F14. What we're doing now is making hanging bar lights. So basically, we're going to do 3 of them, of course. We're going to glue our G1 into F12 like this, and then the other side we'll get a F14, much like this. Okay, so let me go ahead and get these glued in. I'll show you what it looks like. And there you go. 3 hanging bar lights, 2 bar stools, and this beautiful bar sign, which is actually upside down, facing the back. There we go. As you can see, my technique actually did solidify the sign in place perfectly. So we are good all around, and that completes step 9. Let's see what's next. Alrighty, so here are all the things that we're going to need for step 10. We're going to kick things off with F15 here and D24. It's very important that you have the correct piece. D24 is 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. There's another D piece, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, that is actually much bigger. Don't use the bigger one for this stage. What we're going to do is we're going to glue the small end of F15 here to the center of D24. So let's go ahead and get that done. All right, a bit like that. I'm going to let that dry for a bit, and while that's doing that, we're going to bring these out. These are F2, and we've got 2 of them. And we have 2 more of these tiny little labels that are the E9-16 labels. We're going to go ahead and apply these to our F2 pieces. So let's go ahead and get those glued in too. All right, we're gonna let those dry for a little bit, and then I'll be right back. All right, hopefully this is dried sufficiently. And what we're gonna do is take this. This is G19 cut to 1.6 centimeters by 1.6 centimeters, okay? We're gonna glue it down onto our tabletop, about as centered as you can make it, just like that. So let me go ahead and get that glued in. I'll be right back. All right, it should look a little something like that when you are done. Now, dead center, we have F4. It's another one of these little bowl things. We're going to glue that right in the middle of our table here. So let's go ahead and get that done. Much like that. Now, we're going to take a bunch of these, what are they, G17 scraps. We're going to populate that bowl, make us a nice little plate. So let me go ahead and make that happen. Alrighty, should look a little something like that. Now we're going to top it off with this. Now in the instructions it actually says H13. H13 are these little green ones that look like this. But the picture shows one of these little yellow bulbs here, which is H14. I'm going to go with the picture, so I'm going to make it H14 here as the centerpiece on our little bowl. So let me make that happen. All right, a bit like that. And now, with the tablecloth kitty cornered, okay, like this, you're gonna want to put one of these cups on one side and one on the other. So let me go ahead and get those glued in too. Alrighty. That is the finished product. We have a nice little table, 2 cups, and a plate of, well, whatever that is. I'm guessing some sort of food. Awesome. All right. And that, my friends, completes step 10. All right. Here are all the pieces that we will need for step 11. These cables here, and the small ones, are G3. It is important. This is the thick white wire, not the thin white wire. So be very careful to make sure that you have the correct wire when you're cutting these out. These are 3.5 centimeters long. These are 8 millimeters long, or 0.8 centimeters. What we're gonna do to start this off, we got 2 D20s and 2 of these little D19s. And D19 is going to glue right in the center of D20 as a little leg. So let's go ahead and get those in. All right, those are drying. Focus. They are drying. And while they're doing that, we will continue with the cables. All right, this is going to be fun. Basically, what you want to do is bend the cable around in a nice U shape. Something kind of like that. And then what we'll do is we'll take one of our 8 millimeter ones. We're going to glue it right here, just about like that. So let me go ahead and get this glued in, and I'll make the second one, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, and with all of that done, what you're going to want to do is flip this over, and then you will glue these on like this to make little chairs. Look at that. So let me get those glued in, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, there we go. 2 chairs ready to rock and roll. And that completes step 11. Let's see what's next. Alrighty, y'all, here are the pieces we're gonna need for step 12. This one should be fun. I'm gonna start with E9-20 here. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of bend it at every one of these dotted lines, as well as these little outer flaps here. We're gonna bend those straight down too. So let's get our folds in. All right, and with all of our folds in, we're gonna take this little flap right here, and we're going to glue it underneath this one. It should look a little something like that when you're done. I'm going to set that off to dry. We're basically going to do the same thing with this. This is E921, the only difference being no exterior flaps. So let's go ahead and get our folds in, and we'll glue this together too. All right, now we're going to let this dry for a bit as well before we come back to it. Then we're going to take D29 here, and we're going to decorate it a little bit. Dead center will be another piece of H14. So let's get that glued in. Okay, just like that. And now we have F12, and that'll go right about here-ish. Just like that. And we have two. These are F13, and they're going to go on effectively either side of our centerpiece here. Just like that. And we'll follow it up with F2, and that will go right on here as well, right about here. All right, so when all is said and done, this, let's see if I can get it up. It's not dry yet, so should look a little something like that. Then we'll set this to the side to dry. Bring these back out, and what we're going to do is glue this on top of this, basically like that. So let's make a little layer. Should look like that when you are done. And these little flaps here, if you need to, you bend them down a little more. But let's let this dry a little bit before we head to the next section. Okay, hopefully things have dried enough for us to continue here. What we're going to do is take this is G3, a 3.5 centimeter length. We're going to glue one end into our F12 here. So it should look a little something like that when you're done. Then we're going to glue the top of this right into the center of our umbrella here. Okay guys, come on. You know that's pretty cool. Now, we are going to have to let this dry a little bit before we move on, but the last step is going to be to take that, which is F3. We're basically going to glue it to the top of the umbrella right in the center. So let me let this dry. I'll get that in. I'll show you what the final product is. Alrighty, look at this. That is a beautiful little piece. Nice little picnic area with umbrella. Cool, and that actually completes step 12. Let's see what's next. All right, step 13 is about as easy as they come. You have E9-19 that you got to cut out, and two 1 centimeter long lengths of G1. And basically what we're going to do is on the back of this, we're going to glue these right about here, and here. Straight up and down as best you can. Centered as best you can, with the same length hanging above the top as best you can. So let me get these glued in. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so this is about what it looks like on the back. That's what it looks like on the front. And that's it for stage 13. So I can't really argue too much with the ease of that one. Alrighty, here is what we'll need for step 14. This should be fun. We need F26. We need a 10 centimeter length of G5. This is the string, not the wire, okay? So please don't confuse it with this. And then you need 4 2.5 centimeter lengths of the blue ribbon, which is G7. What we're going to do to kick this off is we're basically going to glue both ends to the same point, both ends of the string to the same point on the wheel or inner tube or whatever you want to call it. So just kind of wrap it around like that and glue them both to the same point. Once that's dry, we will continue. All right, hopefully this is dry enough for us to continue. What you want to do is kind of pull the string out a little bit so you can find the center point here, okay? And that center point, this is where the first glue point is. That center point will glue directly across from it, okay? So let's get some glue in and make that happen. All right. With that in place, we'll let it dry a little bit and then we'll come back. Okay, hopefully that's dry enough. And that means we can move on, and we're going to do exactly the same thing with the top and bottom. These will be precisely perpendicular to these two. So let me go ahead and glue these center points in. We should still have some corners that are loose, but we'll glue these center points in and be able to move on. Alrighty, y'all. So this is what we have now, with all 4 of these sections glued in. And what we're going to do, we're going to take these sections of ribbon, again 2.5 centimeters long, and we're going to put a little glue on the bottom and we'll affix it and wrap it around all of the glue points, okay? So we'll just wrap it around kind of like that. You know, it'll be easier if I actually just do it. So when we do one, I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so it should look like that. We're gonna do it on all 4 glue points, okay? I gotta tell you, doing it with the wrap and everything as one process is a pain. This is just not wanting to stay. So I think for the others, what I'm gonna try, and give it a shot anyway, would be to just glue one end in, let it set, and you know, you can do all 3 at the same time if you do it that way. Well, all of them at the same time if you do it that way, and then wrap it and glue the other end in. With trying to hold both of them together to let the glue set, this is a bit of a pain. It keeps wanting to unwrap. It's a big deal. So I'm going to try it the second way for the other 3, and I'll be back when this is done. Alrighty, there we go. Look at that beauty. I gotta tell you, getting those ribbons on was harder than I anticipated. Well, my theory of gluing them on one edge was valid. You still have to glue each of them individually when you wrap it around because they just keep wanting to pop off. And then you gotta hold it until it's secure before you can move on. But that said, you can't argue with the final product. All right. Time to move on because that is the end of step 14. All right, here are the parts that we're going to need for step 15. This one's going to be fun. First, you need 11 of these. This is, by the way, all of this is G3, that white thick wire, okay? And you're going to need 11 pieces cut to 3.5 centimeters long. What we're going to want to do is make an S out of these that is 1.6 centimeters or 16 millimeters in length, tip to tip. So let me see if I can do this and show you what one of them looks like. Just like that. And I don't know how, but somehow I managed to get it at 1.6 exactly on the first go. So that was blind luck. By the way, these are round stock that I use in my metal model builds. And yeah, looks like this is the perfect one. The center one here is the perfect one for doing this. This is 3 millimeters wide. So if you happen to have a 3 millimeter wide round stock, works great for making your S's. And now I got to do 10 more of them. So when we get that done, I'll be right back. Alrighty, here we are with 11 S's. Now, 3 of these we're going to set to the side. We won't need them just yet. These, on the other hand, are going to be divided into 2 groups of 4. Now what we're going to want to do here with these, which are 8 centimeters in length, we're going to want to bend either side down at a 90-degree angle, 0.8 centimeters or 8 millimeters in. So let's see here. All right, so you should have something that looks like this. Now what we're going to do is take one of our S's and we're basically going to glue it right in there, just like that. In fact, we should be able to fit all 4 of these in that little area there. Let's find out. Okay, y'all, come on. You gotta admit, that is an amazing fit right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue this one in first, and then I'll show you what happens next. All right, so that's one. And now we get to do the other 3. Now, when you glue these in, especially the center ones, do not glue the join right here, okay? Because we're gonna have to bend one side afterwards. I'll show you what when we've got the rest of these in. So let me go ahead and glue these in, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, y'all. So there we have our 4 S's glued in. What you're going to want to do is right at this join, you're going to want to make a 90-degree bend backwards here, like that. And I hope everything stays. It's a bit much. Now I am going to put a little glue here now that we've got the 90-degree bend in there. Let this set. This is hard. This takes a long time to do. And then we get to do it a second time. But with the second one, you're going to want to bend the 90-degree bend on this side so that they will face opposite directions, okay? So let me do this one. I'll show you what the final product looks like. Alrighty, y'all. Now we have two. And you can see the opposite bends there. Now on this one, and only this one, we're supposed to take a 1 centimeter long stick of the G3 again, and it's going to go in this corner to simulate a post. So let me go ahead and make that happen, and I'll show you what it looks like. And there you go, little post in. Now there's one last step. Now this part is not in the instructions anywhere, but in later pictures, it looks like they took one of these F3s and they glued it on top of the post. It never says to do so anywhere in the instructions, and I can't be sure because the pictures are so small, but it looks like it's one of those F3s. And I did have a couple extras whenever I was counting them out for the inventory, so I'm going to go ahead and take one. I'm going to glue it to the top of the post to finish this off. And there you have it. Our little ball on top of the post, and both of these assemblies are now complete. And that finishes off step 15. Can't wait to see what's next. Okay, these two are the only pieces you need for step 16. You need this G14 cloth cut to approximately 4.5 by 4.5 centimeters and a 2.5 centimeter cut of this G8 ribbon. Basically what we're gonna do is kind of fold this cloth around, and that's effectively what we're looking, with the ribbon cuffing it around the center. So I'm not even gonna try to do it that way. I'm gonna bring out my round stock here, and I'm gonna try to glue this into a circular cuff and then fold this up and slip it through, and keep my fingers crossed that that works. So let me give that a shot and I'll be right back. Alrighty, y'all, and this is what I was able to come up with. It's actually pretty good. This is actually going to end up being like a curtain placed on the wall beside a window, obviously tied up. And I think it looks pretty good. Nice. All right, well, let's move on. Alrighty, this next one should be interesting. We have G11 cut to approximately 2.5 by 3 centimeters long, and we have D4. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna place D4 right in here, and then we're gonna wrap it up and glue it to this piece. So let me go ahead and make that happen. Alrighty, so here we have a nicely wrapped piece. And what we're gonna do is take two of these B26 pieces. We're gonna glue them onto the bottom, right about here and here, to become legs. This is actually going to be a piano seat. So let's get some glue on these. We'll get them glued in. All right, there we go. Now we just gotta let these dry and we can move on. And that finishes step 17. Alrighty, here's everything we're going to need for step 18. This should be a fun one. We're gonna kick things off with D2. And we're gonna have 3 of these D3s, okay? We're gonna start by making this happen. So we're gonna glue D3 on top of D2, just like this. Make sure this back curve matches, is flush, and you have this lip here, okay? Just like that. We're gonna let this dry for a second, then we'll come right back. All right, fingers crossed that is dry enough to proceed. And we're gonna take another D2 and we're basically just gonna glue it right on top, just like that. So let's make that happen. All right, look at that. Now while we're waiting for that to dry, we can take a look at this lip here. What we're gonna wanna do is take E9-22 here, and we're going to glue it right on that lip. Okay, just like that. That's right, we're making a piano. Now this is a little long, okay, so it'll go a bit over. We'll trim it up after we've got it glued down. So let's get that glued in and let it dry for a bit. All right, look at that. That looks gorgeous. Then we're gonna flip this thing over. We're gonna put some table legs on. Now these are D5s. These little pieces right here. And what we're gonna do is put them on the edges. One right here, at the back of this curve. And then one on the edge here, right about where the D3s line up. So about like that. And one on the other side, same place. So let me get these glued in and I'll be right back. Alrighty-o. Here we go. 3 legs fully glued on. Looking really nice. All right. Now we've got one more of these D5s here. And this one is going to glue approximately right here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but right about there, give it or take. And you're going to want this one to dry a bit before we move on. So let me go ahead and get that in. I'll be right back. All right, that is where I've chosen to glue mine. This isn't fully dry yet, but I want to show you what comes next, because this is going to take a while and it's going to require you to actually hold it in place. But basically this is going to be like the piano lid. So it's going to sit with this side lining up with this, and then of course it'll rest on top of the peg we just put on, and we should have us a nice piano lid when you're done. That's why you want this one to dry fully, because when you lean this in, that's going to tilt if it's not dry. So we want to wait for that to dry, and then we'll put this in, and because of the angle, you're going to have to hold it in place until the glue fully dries. So let me do that and I'll be back. Alrighty, look at that. That looks awesome. All right, we've got one final touch to finish off our piano here. And that is this little piece right here. That is E9-23. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half here and put it in a heavy crease. Okay, so it kind of looks like that. And if you're able, maybe put a slight bend into the paper. So it kind of looks like the pages are, you know, just kind of natural. Kind of like that. And what we're going to do, put a little glue on there. We're going to glue it right about here, just like that. So let me go ahead and get that done, and I'll be right back. And there it is. One piano fully assembled, looking absolutely spectacular. And that is the end of step 18. Alrighty. Here's what we're going to need for step 19. We're going to kick things off with two of these. These are C12. We're going to lay them down in opposite directions, like this. We got 4 more of these D5s that we used on the piano. And we're going to glue them on this corner right here at the bend, and then at the end of the short leg, okay, for both. So 4 D5s glued into those positions. So let me go ahead and make that happen. All right, so you should have something that looks like this, and of course one facing the opposite direction here when you're done. And what you're going to do is kind of flip it over. You're going to glue on the bottom of the D5s here. You're going to put it into the corner, just like that, okay? And then, of course, the other one will go in the other corner to finish the look. So let me glue those in. Alrighty, y'all. Look at that. That came out looking awesome. All right, next up, we have the 3 S's that we made earlier and a 6 centimeter long length of G3. What you're going to want to do with this is kind of match this curve here. So let's see if I can't do something like that, or at least an approximation thereof. All right, something like that should be fine. Now, you're going to want to take your S's, and what you'll do is you'll glue 1 S right here, 1 right in the center, and another one right here. There will be a gap between them. And then you'll glue this on top of those and into these corners to make a nice little railing. So let me get that done and we'll be right back. Alrighty, y'all. And look at that. That came out gorgeous. All right. Well, next up, we're gonna have to start decorating with these. This is H13, which is the small green dried flowers, and H16, which are these pink ones. But really, before we can do this, this has to dry fully, 100%. And it is definitely still wet for me. So we're going to give this some time, let it dry, and move on to this afterwards. See you soon. Alrighty, y'all. here it is, glue fully dry, looking spectacular. Now, we're going to add these small green leafy ones. This is the H13s to it. How you do it is entirely personal preference, okay? You can, of course, simply leave it as a nice, clean balcony. Or you can strip the individual leaves off, throw on some glue, and sprinkle it down for kind of a more full coverage. Or you can just kind of strip this apart a bit, leaving the stems so you get more of a vine-like look. Okay, how you do it is entirely up to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and do mine, and then I'll come back, I'll show you what it looks like. There we are, what do you think? How's that look? I think that looks pretty good. Now we're gonna add some accents. By pulling this off, we're gonna pull the buds off one by one and just glue them around on top, on the sides, you know, wherever you feel that a highlight is needed, and add a little color to it. And again, totally personal choice, so I'm gonna do me. I'll show you what it looks like. And there it is. All my little highlights are in place. I think that came out looking really, really nice, actually. I like it. And that completes step 19. Let's see what's next. Alrighty, this is what you'll need for step 20. This is the corrugated paper. Make sure you are sure which way the corrugation lines are going. We got to make some measurements here. Got my pen out. Let's mark this thing off. First up, then I want to do marks along the long side at, let's see, nope, yeah, 1/2 centimeter, so 5 millimeters. And then another 5.2. And then another 5.2 after that. All right. Now we'll make the same marks on the other side. All right. Then we'll connect them. All right. So you should have something that looks like that. Now on either side, you're going to want to mark 6.5 centimeters. So let's do that. And then one last mark down here at the 4 centimeter mark. All right. So when you're done, it should look a little something like this. What you want is this strip here, and then these 2 large boxes. Okay, so let's cut all of that out, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so this is what you're left with. This we'll set aside for the moment. That's going to go with the plants over here. These, on the other hand, we're going to roll them up. Now these are eventually going to become like little columns. So you want the corrugation on the outside, and you're going to take the short end and you're basically going to just roll it up as tightly as you can, and then put a little glue in there. Now, since these are going to become paired columns, it's kind of important that when you're done rolling them, they are similar in diameter. Okay, so it looks well, so it looks good. So let's just get these rolled up nice and tight, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, y'all. Here we are, 2 rolled up pillars, looking pretty spectacular, actually. These are very nice. All right, next up, we have this little thing. Now this is effectively going to be a little garden planter. What we're going to do is we're going to take these are H12. These are the large green, not to be confused with the small ones. And we've got H15. These are the orange ones, not to be confused with the pink. Of course, you do you. This is all personalization. What we're going to do is we're going to take little sections off of both of these and we're going to place them back here. We're going to glue them here so that they are sticking above this like it's a planter. You don't want to make it too high because this piece here, this is effectively where it's going to go, like this, with the plants coming up. So how high you want them, totally up to you, but just so you're aware of where it's gonna go. So let me cut some of these off, get it glued in, I'll show you what mine looks like. And there we go, look at that. Nice. I think that looks pretty cool. Can't wait to see it in its final resting place, but for now, we're gonna set this to the side, let it finish drying, and that is the end of step 20. Alrighty, y'all, here are the parts that we're going to need for step 21. All three of these pieces come as part of E9-24. Then we have two 3.6 centimeter long pieces of G3 wire and four 2.5 centimeter long pieces. We're going to kick things off with these, and we're going to fold them in half, just like this, and make a heavy crease, and then we're going to glue it down. We're going to do that for all three. All right, now we've got these. It's time to start on the fun stuff. First, we're going to take these 2.5 centimeter long ones, and what we're going to do is kind of make them into a U shape. So that the feet are just slightly larger than 1 centimeter. They're saying 1.2. Yeah. Something like that. And we're going to do that for all four. All right, so you should have something that looks like that. Now we're going to bring these out. This one's going to be fun. Basically, what you want is to leave a 1 centimeter long length in the middle and bend the edges down so that they cross beneath it. Given the length, that would mean the bends should be about at the 1.3 centimeter range. So I'm going to give that a shot and see how that works. So you want to make a shape something like this, and then you're going to have to replicate it with the other one. So let's see if I can do that. All right, there we go. Good enough for government work, I guess. All right, with these, we're going to glue them onto this, one on either side or the bottom. I mean, they're basically the same. Either way is fine. Wherever you glue these will be the bottom. Okay, so I've got mine over here drying right now. I'll show you what it looks like when it's fully dry, but in the meantime, we can start working on these. And what you're going to want to do is take your paper, and you're going to want to put a little bit of a bend on one end. Something kind of like that. And you're going to want to glue one of these to either side so that it is let's see, approximately like so. Okay? Make it a little higher, a little lower. Your call, but approximately like so. One on either side, and you do it for both of these pieces. So let me go ahead and glue this in and see what we come up with. And there we go. When all is said and done, you should have 2 beach chairs and a little table. How awesome is that? Alrighty, y'all. That is going to have to be it for this episode. But look at everything we've accomplished. So many beautiful pieces just waiting to be placed. This is gorgeous. And of course, we have all of the stuff we completed in episode 1. So this is turning out to be a spectacular piece. And next time, we get to start assembling the above water portion of the beach house. I can't wait. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.